Hey, I wanted to talk today about the different kinds of courage and kind of courage throughout the ages, and the different time zones that different types of courage applied to. I recently watched the movie 300 for the first time in a long time, and it's a great movie. It's badass. There's not a lot to kind of not like about the movie. And that kind of got me watching that series Rome and Spartacus and that kind of thing. And it kind of got me thinking, and it's something that I've said before, it's about the different kinds of courage now that exist today, that are most practiced today in the first world, as opposed to back in ancient Greece. Especially with that Battle of Thermopylae, where the 300 Spartans and the 7,000 Greeks went up against this massive Persian empire that consisted of maybe a quarter to half a million. And that required a different kind of courage that's written in the history books to the kind of courage that people need now. The kind of courage that was enforced back in ancient Greece, ancient Rome, was very much a physically dominant warrior kind of courage, where the most the most skilled warriors were exalted. And they were kind of raised up on a platform to be like the best of the best. Like you'll remember in 300, Leonidas was picked as this king, as this great leader and this great warrior to go and lead these 300 Spartans to fight against the Persians. The kind of courage that was needed there, as I said, was very physically domineering. Dignity, integrity, a great sense of leadership and overall kind of a badass character, you know? Even though he was killed, Leonidas, in the end, he still maintained, so it's said, because this battle happened at, I think it was 380 BC, roughly. He died about 60 years of age. Up till his dying breath, he maintained a level of heroicism and dignity. The different kind of courage that we have now in this world, in 2017, it's not so much physically domineering courage of kind of all-out war. I guess you could argue that for certain places in the world, but in places like Ireland, Canada, Australia, most of Europe, it has really transformed since 380 BC. Where the courage that was needed there was a heroicism, and very physically tough and proud. Now the kind of courage in this day and age, because there are no great battles for us to fight in Ireland, most of Europe, Canada, Australia. I think America's a different kind of game altogether. They've always, for the longest time, kind of been a war military superpower. But even still, the Americans are not kind of trained to fight from a young age like the Spartan boys were. They were trained as warriors from a very young age, from a particular period in history. The kind of courage that one needs to have now is it's a kind of an emotional, mental, spiritual courage. It's a courage to follow your heart It's a courage to get invested in a business. It's a courage to stand up for your principles. It's courageous, I should say. It's courageous to put yourself out there creatively. It's courageous to and express an opinion that might not be popular, not just for the sake of expressing an opinion, but from sharing a deeply held attitude and belief. That, to me, is courageous. That's the kind of courage that we have now in this world, especially in the first world. It's a courage to be yourself. Ralph Waldo Emerson, very inspirational character. Written a lot of books. A great kind of leader or a guider of the mind. He said that it's something along the lines of the thing to be most proud of is to remain yourself in a world that's constantly trying to change you. That's really, really true. The courage that we have to have now is putting yourself out there and being open to ridicule and people who just won't like you. But I wish on a certain level the people that didn't like... I wish there was an open dialogue more. I kind of wish that if somebody put something, like I've done it so many times before, I wish that if I put something out that is culturally unpopular, yet it's a deep attitude or belief within me, I don't understand why the opposition to that attitude and belief, why the opposition wouldn't want to ask you questions, to be curious about your mind, to be curious about your attitudes, to be curious where they started from. I think we in this day and age, for all the social media and communication mediums we have, we are still awful communicators. We're awful communicators because it's, to me now, it seems to be it's just one person's point versus the other person's point. Unless somebody's mind is open, they're not going to learn anything. They're going to stick with their point of view, so they don't even have to acknowledge anything that you say. I wish there was more of a curiosity with the world, with people who have opposing viewpoints, wondering, that's interesting, I wonder why they think like that, or how they come to be this way, and to still maintain your own set of beliefs, your own principles, but still be curious about other people's beliefs and principles. Instead, nowadays, the courage that people have to put themselves out there, to be exalted and ridiculed and bashed, and also loved as well. That courage has to be there, I think, because there's a real lack of curiosity with the other side, the opposing side. Instead of learning from one another, we're very quick to dismiss, and we're very quick to stamp on other people. You can have people who are very black and white, it's this way or that way. That's not me personally. I'm very much, there's a grey area in between everything, and people are really fucking complex, and people are really complicated. And it takes a lot to kind of understand people and why they do the things they do. And I wish there was more of a curiosity with regards to understanding different people's points of view, and seeing if we can mutually learn from each other, as opposed to stepping on someone. Because in my opinion, human beings always need something to fight against. Whether that's their fucking parents, the government, their husband, their wife, corporations, religion. We always need something to fight against. We're never just content.